Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, my name is Amma, and on this channel I usually create electric skateboarding videos. However, I've recently passed my driving test with 0 driving faults, and I really just know that there's going to be so many people out there who would really benefit from sort of the tips that I guess I could give in this video, because I know before doing my driving test I was an absolute nervous wreck. The UK driving test is notoriously quite a difficult test to pass, and a lot of people say, including my instructor, if you can drive in the UK and if you've passed this test, then you can pretty much drive anywhere in the world, especially if you're passing on a manual car. Really, in this video I just want to give a few tips and pointers, and you know, just explain a little bit about how my test went, what I sort of got up to on the test. And I've got some really good pieces of advice that I wish people had told me before I'd done my test. The first of which, I'm just going to jump straight into it, the first of which is to be personable and try to be humorous with your examiner. Just that level of human interaction instantly removed all the nerves. It just broke all the ice. I remember just pulling out of the test centre. I did my test in Garrets Green, by the way, in Birmingham. Just pulling out the test centre, I was making jokes about how the council should, or the local government should repair that road, because the road that sort of leads into the test centre is absolutely atrocious, and there's no way of avoiding that road. Your car is pretty much shaking and it hates it the whole way you're driving down this 300-metre road into the test centre. And it's a bit of a funny test centre because you've got your driving test centre there, you've also got motorcycle testing and HGV learning as well, and testing in the same place. So we were joking about that, and we were also joking about, I said to him, oh, it must be really nice to have an airport so close by and see all the landings every day. And he said, no, it's an absolute bloody nightmare because I'm a bit into plane spotting now. I've been going plane spotting with a mate of mine, Baz, recently. But I can imagine for him, for that examiner, just hearing planes day in, day out, especially the larger Emirates planes, it must be absolutely annoying. So just little stuff like that, just breaking the ice really, just really allowed me to feel a lot more comfortable, and also allowed him to, I guess, see me more as a person, and just not so much as, you know, your standard student. I'm going to change lane there. Yeah, sorry, 2 lanes ahead joining into 1. But yeah, so it just allowed me to feel a lot more comfortable as well, just breaking the ice. Because what I found as well was, when I was doing my mock tests, I was passing my mock tests, but just that element of knowing you're in a test, it just really put the nerves on. And sometimes, even if you've done something to death in your driving lessons, like mirrors or just one level of observations or something, just having that extra stress in the driving test itself, it allows you to do really silly mistakes. And really, you know, breaking the ice from the outset was a massive help for me in sort of breaking the ice and allowing me to get that extra level of confidence. I was just really able to enter autopilot mode, and yeah, autopilot. I knew for a fact that I could pass the test. You know, I wasn't at all worried that I wasn't capable of passing. It was literally all a question of nerves, and you know, how I was going to manage my nerves. So yeah, break the ice with your examiner. I remember even, you know, towards the end of the test, we were talking about electric cars. I asked him a question like, you know, what's the best test you've ever done? What's the best car you've ever done a test in? And he said it was one of the newer electric cars. And then I asked him, oh, have you ever done it with a Tesla? And then we started talking about Teslas, because apparently Tesla is the Tesla Model S is his dream car, and he's trying to decide on whether to buy a Tesla Model S or to do home improvements. So we literally started talking about home improvements for a while, and you know, whether it would be worth it to buy a Tesla new or used. He said, no, we should buy it used, because you know, the thing with electric cars is they're all about their batteries, similar to electric skateboards, I guess. So at least that's something for you my electric skateboard subscribers to relate to. But yeah, so he was like, it's better to buy it new because the battery will have depleted if you're going to buy it used, blah blah blah. So just really, and we got into conversation there, and I was literally like mid-test, and he's examining me, you know, really strictly as well. Like, it's not like if I missed an observation, he's going to miss it. He's got his iPad there, and And that's another thing actually, what I want to talk about is, another tip I have is, just because your examiner taps away at their iPad, it doesn't mean you've made a fault. That's something that's a misconception that I previously had. And you know, my driving instructor, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well, my driving instructor sometimes would make marks on their sheet, etc., or tap away, and I thought that I'd made a mistake, but and he never explained that. He never explained to me that it doesn't necessarily mean that you've actually made a fault. So my maneuver on the test, of course, you've got, you know, I think 3 or 4 different maneuvers that you can be asked to do, like the reverse bay park, like the parallel park, and then the reverse on the right side of the road. Mine was the reverse on the right side of the road. Thankfully, it went quite smooth sailing. There was only one like oncoming car which I had to wait for. Apart from that, it went perfectly. But I will show it actually how I actually do that maneuver and how the best way to do it on the test is. I'm just going to actually I'm on my way to the test center. But when I'd completed that maneuver, he tapped something on his iPad, and I was thinking, oh no, what have I missed? An observation spot or something? Is that a minor fault? Is that a major fault? And I panicked just for a little second there, just seeing his iPad, because I'm naturally a very observant person. Those of you who are my friends IRL in real life will also know that I don't miss much. But yeah, I actually asked him at the end. At the end, of course, we came back to the test center, and he was like, I'm pleased to say, you know, you've passed, and you've not only passed, but it was an excellent drive. You passed with 0 driving faults. And I was like, bloody hell. That's quite surprising. And he was actually surprised that I was surprised. He said, you know, what's the shock for? Why are you surprised? And I said, you know, first of all, I saw that you tapped on the iPad. After that, I thought I'd missed an observation. And he said, no, that was completely fine. And then I also said to him, I thought that I'd get a hesitation fault at one of the roundabouts, because what I actually did was I kind of waited behind 2 or 3 seconds more than I should have, I guess, because it was completely clear to go. But I don't know, I was just extremely cautious. And the thing with hesitation is it's a fine line between, you know, being a safe driver and not going out too quickly and hesitating. And there was a car coming around. Initially it was coming around the roundabout quite quickly, so I waited, and then it seemed to slow down. I think it must have seen the L plate on the top of my instructor's car and been like, oh, this guy, I don't know, might be in a test, or he might make a mistake in front of me, so let me pull back. So he ended up coming around quite slowly, and that allowed for 2 or 3 seconds that I could have gone in. So I was quite worried there that I would get a fault for hesitation, but thankfully, he said it's completely down to his discretion. I feel like what I felt there was, if he didn't like me, then he wouldn't give me a fault. If he did like me, then he would say, oh, it's down to my discretion, and I'm not going to give you a fault on this occasion. So that was really nice. It was absolutely fantastic. You know, that I've only done 19 hours, give or take, of driving lessons, and to pass with 0 faults as well. I was literally over the moon. That same day as well, I was going to London to meet a few friends. Shout out to Baz and Ryan on that one as well, and Prashil. Yeah, sometimes in these situations you just have to force yourself out, otherwise you'll be there forever, especially in Birmingham, unfortunately. It's unfortunate I have to say that, but yeah, you don't get the kindest drivers in Birmingham, unfortunately. I'd literally only had 19 hours of driving lessons, and I think the national average is like 60 hours or something. So I'm naturally, I think, quite a quick learner, not to blow my own trumpet too much, but I usually tend to pick up things quite quickly. I think what also really helped me was all the go-karting that I was doing. Obviously, go-karting is pretty much automatic, like there's no gear control or anything in our UK go-karts at Team Sport Karting anyway. But what go-karting really gave me a feel for was positioning and just that sort of just feel of moving at speed, of steering and all that stuff. I'd picked all that up quite early on. So that really helped me. My instructor even said, you know, like I was probably his quickest learner. I was also his star pupil according to him, but I feel like that's for other reasons than just my driving style. We banter quite a lot in our driving lessons, and we've popped plenty of jokes together. I think it's actually a misconception that people think, oh, you know, these driving examiners have quotas, that they have to fail certain people sometimes just so that they don't pass too many people during a day, or that's quite interesting. So that they can make more money out of them, or so that they can fulfill certain quotas. Really, I think it's in perhaps in the past, a long time ago, but now I think it's very different. Now it's in the driving examiner's best interest and in everybody's best interest that you pass, because think about it, there's literally millions. There's a huge backlog. I don't know if you've seen in the media, but even, you know, our Prime Minister is trying to push for this backlog to be sorted by the DVSA. And it's not helped by people that just book their test when they're not ready and then end up failing. But yeah, the more people that can pass their driving test first time or second time even, you know, the better it is for everyone, because then more people can pass their tests and get on the roads essentially, and the backlog can be cleared a bit. But yeah, really just, you know, building that rapport with my examiner. I even remember towards the end, once he said that I'd passed, the examiner was like, oh, it's a shame that you didn't pass tomorrow, because it was May the 3rd that I passed. And he said, oh, if you pass tomorrow, your friends would be able to say, May the 4th be with you. You know, the Star Wars joke. But yeah, he was just a fantastic guy. I really enjoyed, you know, having this test with the examiner. Honestly, I just treated it as a mock test. If you're feeling really nervous, I had a banana as well, which seems to be a common sort of tip that I've read online, especially on the Learner Driver subreddit, which, by the way, even if you're not on Reddit, oh, he thinks I'm going to let him go. I'm going to have to now. I don't know why he's thanking me, because he didn't exactly give me a choice, did you? But oh well. But you guys should join Reddit if you're not on Reddit, even if it's just for the Learner Driver subreddit, because there's actually quite a lot of amazing advice and feedback there on booking tests, for example, which, by the way, I'll talk about booking tests in a second, because I've got another tip for that. On booking tests, on test nerves on the day before the test, even on, you know, how to approach certain junctions and spiral roundabouts. That was one of my nemesis, spiral roundabouts. Thank God I didn't get it on my test. But just join that, and it's been a fantastic resource for me there. I will actually give a word just quickly on how I managed to book a driving test literally within 3 weeks that I wanted, because as you guys know, there's this huge backlog, and it's near impossible to find a test unless you're very strategic about how you go about finding the test. I tried every cancellation app. I tried Driving Test Now. I also tried Testy twice, actually. I'll tell you one thing about Testy in a second. I tried Testy twice. I also tried some other website or something, which I did get refunded for, because that didn't work. I got refunded for all of them, actually, apart from Testy, because Testy did eventually work for me, but not in the way that you'd expect. So I obviously paid for all the premium, you know, subscriptions for all of these apps. None of them seemed to work for me for whatever reason. And, you know, I sort of discovered that there is preference in terms of, you know, these apps giving you the test. Even if you say, right, I want a test on this day and I want you to auto book it for me, like the Driving Test Cancellation Now app, it still won't book it for you, because I booked a test that actually I had set the app to auto book for me, but I managed to book it from the DVSA site myself. So in theory, the app should have booked it for me, but it didn't. But I'll tell you the tip with Testy. The main benefit of Testy that you're paying for is being able to essentially click into the DVSA website without having to input your driving license ID or number and you know, your theory test pass certificate every single time, which I mean, if you literally have to be checking the site hundreds of times to find the test that you want. But, you know, just having the Testy app, that was the main benefit for me. I could literally just click into the Testy app, click a couple of buttons, and instantly I'm on, for example, Garrets Green, Birmingham, the test centre, or I'm on King's Standing, or I'm on King's Heath, or Sutton Caulfield or something. Whereas before, and of course it's all about timing, because literally the test will be gone in a second. So every second that you can save in terms of getting on that site and booking the test is a second that's going to make it more likely for you to sort of book that test for yourself. I can just about go there if I pull out quickly. Yep, mirror signal. And yeah, but my top tip for that is you need to be looking for driving tests at 6 a.m. on Monday. It took me quite a long time to realize that, but the minute I realized it is the minute I started getting test dates. Initially I got a test date for September. I then started waking up early every Monday basically after that, until I managed to push it back for like 5 months in advance, and I managed to get it 3 weeks later basically from when I wanted the test, which was really brilliant. But the test I got between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. on a Monday morning, and really you basically need to be ahead of the queue. Usually when you try to log into the DVSA site, I forgot to signal there. Clearly I'm not a perfect driver, but my driving test was a perfect drive. But then again, this is my first time filming and driving, so go easy on me, guys. But yeah, so between 6 and 7 a.m. On a Monday is when you need to book for the test. And what was I saying just before that? Yeah, normally when you try to book onto the site, it will say, oh, you're in a queue, there's 60 people ahead of you, 100 people ahead of you, whatever it is. But when you log in at exactly 6 a.m, you're instantly at the top of the queue, and instantly check for the test center that you want, because more likely than not, there's going to be something there within that week. I personally wouldn't bother for the cancellation apps. They didn't work for me. I know they've worked for a lot of people, but if you can just try this as your first resort, and hopefully you don't even need to pay anything extra. You don't have to pay anything like £18 or £11 for testy or something. If you can just basically do this yourself, and yeah, you're good to go. But what I'm now going to do, guys, as soon as I get out of some traffic, is I'm going to show you guys, I'm basically going to talk out loud and think out loud and show you the sort of level of driving that I was at yesterday when I was getting 0 faults. Because of course, again, don't want to blow my own trumpet, but if I managed to get 0 faults, then I must be a pretty decent driver. All right, guys, so you'll have to forgive me about the camera angles. I've just basically done it willy-nilly. But this is an example as well. If you can see that car behind me, of what happened on my driving test. I was driving within the speed limit, but I'm driving within the speed limit in Birmingham. And there was cars on my bumper basically 2 or 3 times throughout the test. But thankfully, all my 19 hours have been in Birmingham, and it's not the first time I encountered it. I encountered it also on my driving lessons. So basically, I just make them wait. If you want to speed, you're going to have to overtake me and try and speed. I'm not going to speed just because you want me to go faster. But now I'm going to start thinking out loud, basically, and try to show you guys what sort of driving I was doing yesterday. So now the road is bending to the left. I can see that the traffic light is going to change, so I'm braking before the clutch. Braked completely, now the clutch is fully in. I was in 3rd gear, now changing to 1st gear, and keeping the clutch all the way down because I don't want to burn the clutch by keeping it prepared. Once I was ready to go there, prepare the car, check all 3 mirrors, and you're good to go. So now in 3rd gear, switching to 4th, still 30 miles an hour, but the car is just happier in 4th gear at 30 miles an hour. It's a lot more efficient as well on the fuel. I'm now on a bit of an incline, so if the car does struggle, I'm going to switch back to 3rd gear, but it seems to be going fine for now. And clear to go through the traffic lights. I was prepared though to stop just in case. Luckily that white car that was pressuring me is now gone. And yeah, still checking that rear view mirror. I'm checking the rear view mirror every 10 or so seconds, just randomly. I can see that I'm approaching a roundabout ahead, so I'm going to avoid this pothole here. Still approaching the roundabout in 4th gear, braking now. Going to switch over to 2nd gear, checking the right from now. Yep, it's clear to go. Once I've passed the exit before my exit, start signaling, mirror and signal. And now back to 3rd gear and back to our normal driving position. Checking the mirrors once again. Always try to check the mirrors once you enter a new road, because you never know what sort of hazards are approaching you from ahead. So we're actually going to take right 3rd exit, so mirror and signal. Again, slowing down, getting that 2nd gear, looking to see if it's clear. It's not clear. I've got a car approaching me, that Volkswagen, but just after that, I can just about go if I pull out quickly, and we're good. Going to get that 2nd gear, and I'm looking all around at the roundabout to see who's coming up. Going to signal to the left, mirror and signal. Pull into here. I can see some pedestrians on the road, which are going to cause the cars ahead to slow down. You always want to be anticipating what's happening ahead. I can see a huge EasyJet flying above me, EasyJet plane, which is quite distracting, but it's pretty cool. As you can see there, I had that obstruction. Before I moved out onto the other side of the road, I was checking my center and my right mirror. Before I moved back into my side of the road, the center and the left mirror, and that's just to double check for cyclists. So now I'm going to check my center and left mirror and turn left into Garrets Green lane, which is the road which my test center is on. change it to second gear before I turn into the road, releasing the clutch entirely so I'm in total control of the car. Going to switch up to the third gear. This road is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Not that you would want to go much further than 20 miles, much more than 20 miles an hour, because this is the road I was talking about earlier. It's absolutely atrocious in terms of its condition. I can see I need to move out, so center mirror, right mirror, moving out to the other side of the road. And I can see these people with their high-vis, so I'm going to move out a little bit further, check my right mirror again, just in case there's any cyclists there that I've missed. And we don't want to be going much further than 20 miles an hour. Once again, checking my mirrors all around. The driving test is basically 50% observations, 50% driving skill. If you miss your observations, and especially at junctions, etc., I think it's actually one of the most popular reasons, or sorry, most cited reasons for why people fail their driving test is actually observations. Obviously in the real world, as you well know, right, and you can check my center and right mirror once again before I move out. In the real world, I think driving test standard and driving in the real world are two separate things, unfortunately. This is where it gets really bad, so sorry about any really bad sort of vibrations with the camera. So this is actually the test center. I'm coming up to it now. I'm going to check my center, left mirror, signal left, keeping to my side of the road here. As you can see, there's quite a lot of sort of driving learner driver vehicles. I'm then going to turn right. That's exactly where I finished up my test. I'm going to switch to first gear here. I'm going to go through quite slowly and just continue here ahead. We are going to signal right, even though you can't really go left unless you're a HGV doing your test. But there's no harm in signaling, basically, unless it's going to be misleading. There's literally no harm in signaling. So now approaching a junction, clear to our left, clear to our right, double check again, clear to our, it's actually not clear now. There is pretty large HGV pulling out, so that's why it's really important to check constantly left, right. Your head should be jetting like a ping pong ball across left to right, left to right. If I had just finished up my looking on the right side, I would have just crashed into him, or he would have crashed into me rather. That would have been my fault. On my first day of driving as well, in my brand new car, that would have been pretty annoying. So I can see that there's only way for one of us, there's only space for one of us, so he's going to have to wait for me. I'll give him a thank you there. And let's get that third gear. I was in third gear. So always anticipating what's going to happen. It basically comes with practice. I don't really know how I've got this with 19 hours. My instructor was kind of shocked that, you know, I've managed to learn so quickly all of this stuff. But, you know, I'm sort of a quick learner, but it really comes with practice. That's another big tip that I have for you guys taking your test. Practice, 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 practice. I know it gets very expensive, especially these days with the fuel prices and your driving instructors increasing your lesson charges because of the fuel prices. However, just try and get as many lessons in as possible until you feel really comfortable with road signs, with speed signs, with clutch control, with big roundabouts, small roundabouts, and maneuvers. I'm going to try and get to one of the roads that I had on the actual driving test, which was a really annoying road because it was a two-way road, but there was parked cars on both sides of the road, and it was a very narrow road, so there's only one way for basically one car to drive through. There's only space for one car to drive through. So naturally, if another car was coming, I was praying that another car wouldn't come, but naturally that you'd have a meeting situation there, which would be quite annoying, because you're kind of relying on the other driver not being an idiot, basically, and allowing you enough room as well, because it's very easy to fail, I think, in those sort of scenarios. So we are going to mirror and signal right, because we are turning right at this next road ahead. But I'm going to try and go to that road, and what I'm also going to do is try and show you guys my reverse on the right maneuver, which I did. So I'm going to stop just here, just on the edge of my center of the road. It was clear there for a second. I might have got a fault for hesitation. However, that van that you're going to see just there is coming a bit quickly. I almost stalled there, but just about saved it. Bear in mind, guys, I learned to drive in a diesel car, and my car now is a petrol. The reason I got a petrol car was because basically I can drive into my city centre without incurring any charges for the clean air zone. And I basically live quite close to my city centre, so that's exactly why I got a petrol car. However, it's a little bit different. The car needs a lot more gas to basically set off, whereas the diesel cars are naturally a lot more powerful. So this guy wants to cross me here. Thankfully, I did spot him in advance. Once I come to a stop, I'm going to change straight away back to my first gear. That's the first thing I'm going to do, just to make sure that I don't forget. So I can see that the cars ahead are moving slowly. I'm going to check all 3 mirrors that I have, and I'm going to crack on ahead. I am going ahead at this roundabout, so no need to signal. Checking the right side to see if it's clear. All of those cars are actually turning into that road, so it's clear for me to go. This bus is going to have to wait for me past one exit before my exit, and that's where I'm going to signal. So this is the road that I came on for my driving test, and I'm looking ahead there. I can see parked cars ahead, so I'm going to slow down in anticipation of them, and I'm going to check my center and my right mirror before I move out. I could be a driving instructor, guys. What do you think about that? Should I change the trajectory of this channel into driving instructor videos, and get my what's it called, ADI badge or whatever it's called? Let me know. No, I'm just joking. So once again, check center and left mirror to move back into that side of the road for any cyclists. And you can see a car ahead just reversing, so I'm gonna brake slightly. He's going home, it seems. Braking here is quite tight. Center, right mirror, moving out. Center and left mirror, moving back in slightly. Center and right mirror going to move out again shortly to avoid this red car, and center and left. Okay, we are going to turn right, third exit at this roundabout. So I'm going to get the second gear. That driver was coming round, but I still had plenty of space to go before. At this point, signaling left, and we'll get the third gear. Now this is quite a narrow bridge, so only space for one car, which is completely fine. I am going to go ahead here. It's clear to go, so we're just going to go for it. And center mirror, left mirror, signal. Okay, third gear here. Now this is very tricky. You can see the car is looking to meet me. Car just pulled out there. I'm going to drop down to the second gear. Speed humps usually means 20 miles an hour on that road or on that segment. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Should be good to go now. Check the 3 mirrors, pull out. Second gear, instantly pull back into my side of the road, center mirror and left mirror. Third gear, though there's not a big need, we've got red lights ahead. And brake before clutch, braking, push the clutch in. Lights have just changed, check the 3 mirrors, and we're good to go again. I'm going to take this left road here, staying in second gear, keeping relatively close to the curb. I don't know why I did that, because this is a residential road. So I'm going to pull in left once again. I'm going to come into the right there. Put the car into a reverse gear. Observations. And reverse out. That actually used to be part of the driving test a long time ago, but you don't actually have to do the 3-point turn as part of the driving test anymore, which is quite interesting. So we're going to signal right, look for any traffic. No traffic on either side. We are going to signal left now. We'll take this left. Okay, clear to go. Get that second gear. I don't know how you guys were taught to change between gears, but for me I was basically taught in 10 mile an hour increments, but it usually changes sometimes depending on what you're doing. But what we're going to do is we're going to go right, third exit, drop the speed, second gear, clear from the right, entering the roundabout, staying tight to the roundabout. That's the first exit. That's the second exit. As soon as we pass that, we're going to start to signal and mirror. Exit the roundabout. I'm now gonna pull up on the right hand side of the road as soon as that Peugeot passes. Getting the first gear here. Keeping the car moving because it's easier to move off if the car is moving versus if it's completely still. And I'm just going to stop there. I am blocking driveways, but I'm going to basically say verbatim what the examiner told me yesterday. So he's going to say, he did say rather, I'd now like you to reverse 2 car lengths, keeping the car relatively close to the curb. You can ignore any driveways on this occasion. So, bit of a tricky one, this one, because as you can see with the front-facing camera, I actually have a BMW right there, which is kind of blocking my vision. I've also got that Golf which is pulled up just behind me, but I should be completely fine there. But once I pull up, I would have, at that point, turned my signal off, gone back to neutral, pull up the gear stick and let go of all the pedals. And then I'm gonna basically follow the POM routine, which is prepare, observe, move off. So preparing the car, putting the car into the reverse gear, clutch in first, of course, put the car into reverse gear, find your biting point, and at that point, you're going to want to basically start doing your observations. Now, absolutely crucial here, observations. I'm actually going to put my clutch back in, so I'm not burning the clutch. I want to explain this. So, it's very, very easy to fail on this maneuver, not because it's a difficult maneuver, but because people fail their observations. Normally, when you pull up on the left, when you pull up on a driving test, it's on the left. During your test, your driving examiner is going to get you to pull up 2 or 3 times on the left, maybe do a hill start as well. I didn't actually do a hill start, but when you pull up on the left, you start your observations from the left hand side. You do your 6-point check from there: blind spot, left mirror, ahead, rear view mirror, right mirror, wing mirror, and then your right blind spot. And that's because you'll finish up looking, checking the side of the road that has the direction of traffic in, and that's fine. But if you did that here, you'd basically fail because the last thing you're checking is the pavement, and at that point, you know, that's like full second or 2 seconds after you've last checked the left side of the road where the traffic is actually coming from. So if you pulled out there, or if you moved off there, you know, you could very easily cause an accident because things can change so quickly when you're driving on the roads, and the road conditions can change very quickly. So crucially, you start from the right. So I'm going to prepare the car once again and then do my 6-point check from the right. So seems to be clear. I'm now going to release the handbrake, check once again, and very, very slowly start moving off. It's not about rushing. I just saw that car there in my rear view mirror, and there's another 2 cars approaching. One of them is learning as well. So as soon as he gets to my side, I'm going to start my 6-point checks again. I can actually see a car ahead now again. So another car behind. It's all about observations, this. It's not a difficult maneuver to carry out at all. It's all going to be about observations. If you want to get your positioning right, it's not very difficult, but if you get the positioning wrong, if you want to move closer to the curb, you're basically going to steer right. If you want to move away from the curb, you're going to steer left. Very, very easy. So observations, once again, finishing up on the left hand side. Once again, another car there. It's quite busy today, isn't it? But we'll get this done. And another car again. Hopefully, fingers crossed, should be good to go now. So after this one, check once again. Your examiners will love you if you carry out your observations correctly. When you're doing the maneuver, always want to be looking outside the back window as well. Looking basically everywhere. Your head should be like a dartboard. I almost headbutted my examiner actually when I was doing this maneuver. That's how much I was going into my observations. And of course, the examiner said you can ignore the driveways on this occasion. So I'm just going to stop here. That's about 2 car lengths. Then gonna put the car back into neutral, handbrake on, and that's the maneuver done. But now we've got another sort of tricky bit, which is we need to move off from the right hand side of the road, back up into the left. Once again, observations, we're going to start from the right, finish up on the left. So prepare the car first of all. I can see a bus is approaching, so I'm going to keep my clutch in for just another few seconds. There's also a van approaching from the back to a work van, so we'll wait for him. A red car ahead of that, behind that, sorry. And I can see cars approaching from that side, but if we're quick, nope, not going to be able to do it now because there's a blue car from that side and cars approaching this way. There's no rush, by the way, to this, guys, at all. The examiner will wait all day for you to pull out at a safe time. Don't feel that you're rushing the examiner. They're literally paid to sit there with you. So it's clear. Check once again. The signal left to indicate that we're moving off. Quick check of the blind spot once again before we pull out. First gear, second gear, and that's basically it. That's how you do it. Now we're going to pull back into the left hand side of the road, center mirror and left mirror, getting into my third gear now, and yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I do also quickly want to say what my show me and tell me questions were. My tell me question at the start was very easy. Of course, you should have all practiced and done to death your show me tell me questions. My tell me question was, could you tell me how you check the could you tell me the correct tread depth on your tires and how you check that their condition is roadworthy. Very easy answer to that question. There should be a minimum of 1.6 millimeters of tread depth on them, and that should be across the 3 central beams across the entire circumference of the tire. Also, there should be no cuts or bulges in the tires. What an absolutely terrible place to put a speed bump. But yeah, that was absolutely fine, of course. Didn't get any faults for that. Just going to move my head around there and check that there's no obstructions. So this road is obviously going to be a 20. And my show me question was literally, could you show me how you bring down the side window or open the side window? Couldn't be any easier. I feel like the examiners do have obviously a bit of discretion there. If they probably don't like you, if you're really rude to them to begin with in the test, then, for example, when the examiner says to you right in the beginning, would you like me to explain a little bit about the test? Just say yes. It's quite polite to say yes. If you say no, you can come across quite cocky and just like not very personable. So even if you know exactly what the test is going to be like I did, just say yes, of course, yeah, sure. And yeah, so just get things off on a really good start with your examiner and try to build rapport with them, and they'll make your life much easier, trust me, because they do have discretion and they can use that discretion either in your favor or against you. So I feel like if they quite like you, then they'll rule things in your favor in terms of, for example, the potential hesitation fault that I talked about that I might have had on the roundabout, and also the show me tell me questions. So perhaps if you're being really difficult with them, they'll get you to open up the bonnet and show them, I don't know, how to check that you have sufficient engine oil, or they won't give you an easy question for the show me, like the side window. Another reason that I was really ecstatic that I passed and that I was shocked that I got 0 faults is in that 19 hours, I hadn't actually learnt some of the things that were quite essential to do in the driving test, or to know how to do in the driving test, such as the emergency stop. My instructor basically didn't want me to learn that in his car because I think it's not very nice for the car, the emergency stop. And so, whoop, dead end here. I'm gonna put it into first gear and just do a nice little, this reminds me of GTA San Andreas, if you know that avenue where CJ used to live. But yeah, I'd never actually done the emergency stop before. I didn't thankfully have to do it on the test, but I was a bit nervous that I would be asked to do it. But basically my instructor didn't want me to do it in his car because it wouldn't be very healthy for the car, which, I mean, everyone's going to have an opinion about that, aren't they? But he did explain exactly what I have to do, like just come to a stop, secure the car before you move off, check both blind spots, and yeah, that's that. I also didn't actually learn how to follow a sat-nav. Never done that before in my lessons, and of course my independent driving on the test was following a sat-nav. You can also be asked sorry, you can also be asked to follow directions or street signs, which again, I mean, I did actually do that actually on my lessons, but I'd never followed a sat-nav. But again, that was just completely self-explanatory. It doesn't really take much at all to know how to follow a sat-nav, and you're literally being talked as well. Just imagine that the voice on the sat-nav is your instructor's voice telling you at the next roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto blah blah blah, or turn right or turn left, blah blah blah. It's very easy, and even the examiner as well will help you if there's a bit of a sketchy route on your sat-nav. Like in my sat nav on my test, for whatever reason, there was a couple of roundabouts in Garrets Green that he said weren't actually updated on the sat nav database. So he said at the first roundabout take the third exit, right third exit, at the second roundabout take left first exit. So he will actually help you with that. And there was another time on the sat nav actually where it said turn right, and then he said to me it's not actually a turn right, it's just a bare right, and then it's a turn left. So the examiners do actually help you out with the sat nav if there's any sort of you know, complication there, so you don't really have to stress too much about that. But yeah, those were the couple of things that I didn't really learn on my lessons, but absolutely take nothing away from my instructor Tan. He was an absolute legend. You know, went above and beyond for me every time, and I thoroughly enjoyed all the banter that I had with him. I'm actually really going to miss the driving lessons that we had, because we would have such a good laugh as well on the driving lessons. But yeah, so I guess I kind of replicated that laughter and banter onto the examiner, and that's what really worked. So I guess it really comes a bit with social skills and, you know, being comfortable talking to strangers, etc. But really, it's really general life skill, and I guess a lot of people will have quite good social skills anyway. So if you can implement that into your test, then hopefully you know, the exam will just go a lot better in terms of your nerves, but also in terms of the examiner's perception of you. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, guys, and all of you new viewers on this channel that aren't usually watching my older videos, please subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed this sort of content. I know it's very different, but I thought that it would be very insightful and valuable, and if I was doing my test tomorrow, I would love to watch a video like this, because it's really difficult to pass this driving test. It's a very strenuous exam usually, but yeah, I'm absolutely ecstatic that I've passed, and I hope that you've enjoyed this somewhat and you found it beneficial. If you have, please drop a comment. Again, like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.